What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Burning Hammer podcast. We are joined this week by a couple of very special guests. You may recognize him from once before. Cade Powers is once again back with us, along with his booking counterpart for BFC. I'm sorry, sir, I did not get your last name. We have
Aeronson.
Josh Darrenson and Cade Powers from BFC, Bloodsport Fighting Coalition. So if you guys tuned in before, if not, definitely go back and check our interview with Cade. It was our first interview that we ever did with any wrestler, and it's still one of our favorite interviews, and is going to be. Cade was it was such a great relationship that we've started to build with Cade, and we're just so happy. You're such a great guy, and we can just tell how much love and passion you have for the business. And like that's all we want to do is just help this business and be a part of it any way we can. So yeah, we're so excited to have you guys back, and mainly here to get into. We kind of talked about it before. If you did listen to Cade's interview with us, that we were going to have him back in the future to talk about Bloodsport Fighting Coalition and talk a little bit about the promotion that he recently started. So that's exactly what we're here to do. So the first thing that I'll do, and this question, and every question is open to the both of you. Whoever feels like they have something good to pitch in here. But first things first is just like what inspired you to start your own company and start your own start your own wrestling promotion. What I know, Cade, you've been in the ring, you've been a wrestler for a while. Josh, I don't know too much about your history. You can let us know a little bit about how this all came to be and what made you want to do this.
All right. So I actually got to start in the wrestling business around the time I was 8 years old. So that would be 21 years ago. Second generation. My dad was a wrestler, so I got to see how all that worked back then. And about 10 years ago, myself and a guy named Trent ran Crossfire Pro Wrestling for a number of months, and it was fun back then. We lost the ability to run, and since then I wanted to keep doing it, and this was the chance. We got together, we talked over it, we took the leap and started.
Yeah, I mean that's you always like second generation wrestlers, and having it in the family is always super cool to hear. Cade, what made you want to start to try to get in on to start your own wrestling company?
Really, ever since I got into wrestling, even as a kid, it's always been like my end goal was always to own my own company. uh, I enjoy wrestling, and I will always have a passion for it, but my passion has always been about the creative aspect of wrestling. So, really, as soon as I see my first opportunity to finally get on board with it, I jumped on the opportunity. So
That's awesome. So, how did you guys meet and like come together to start your own company?
well, I think me and Josh met. I believe it was a kendo stick over my forehead. I believe that's one of our first encounters in the wrestling business.
Probably or that horrible looking code breaker I gave you because I was wearing jeans.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So me and Josh met in various companies in Georgia, and we just slowly became best friends over time. Uh, and hell, I think it was your idea, Josh. I think BFC was your brainchild, and we kind of all met up that one day.
Well, it stemmed off of myself and another group of guys, Jackson Carter, Kirkland, and Kyle Phillips. We were the Best Friends Club, BFC.
Mm.
And we had a good bit of success with that. And when we started trying to, what do we want to name the promotion? We ran through a bunch of ideas. Some of them were okay. I didn't like a lot of them, but I always went back to BFC. Like, we went from being an own, in ring faction to, I guess you'd say, a backstage clique. And I always wanted to incorporate that more than just being a clique, and it worked out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like one of the coolest things with wrestling to me is the stories you hear of like people meeting in the industry, and then you know what I mean, just like a small passion of you guys both wanting to be, in this business brings you together, and then it's like however many years later down the line, close friends, you're running your own company. Like that's it's such a cool story to hear, like even just down from like we said, like you said, from being a kid, Cade, like I'm sure it's like always been a dream of mine for Mark and I to run our own wrestling promotion and stuff like that too. So it's just so cool when you hear real life stories of stuff like that actually coming together. And one of the biggest things that we're trying to do with this interview segment, and bringing more wrestlers on too, is it's so cool that people get to kind of live their dreams now, and it doesn't have to, you know what I mean, you don't there's not just one way to do it anymore, and there's all this stuff, you know what I mean, you can really go out there and make a name for yourself in this day and age with wrestling. And it's one of the things that I love, and how it's one of the big things that internet wrestling and wrestling media, it's one of the pros that we've gotten from it, was the ability to be able to like do so much for yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely easier nowadays to get yourself over as a wrestler when you got all these social media outlets to promote yourself on. I definitely don't envy the people that grew up in the early 2000s coming up in wrestling, because it was probably a bit harder for them to be seen.
Absolutely. So one of the big questions we wanted to ask is what makes BFC special? You know what I mean? What makes it different from other wrestling promotions in the area, in the world? And yeah, exactly. You said that it was kind of Josh's brainchild and stuff. So kind of tell us a little bit about like the details and the intricacies of BFC and what makes BFC what it is.
Well, there's several different things that I could give you to tell you why BFC is a special show. I mean, for one, it's more of an adult-based product, which in our area, you don't really see any of that. Every show around us is filled with family-friendly entertainment, which there is obviously a place in wrestling for that, but I felt like a company that adults could go to and have fun was very much needed in the state of Georgia. And that's one of the biggest things that makes us just unique, is you can go see such a different product from everywhere else in Georgia, because Georgia's already oversaturated with shows. I mean, there's so many. And that's why us doing this totally different kind of take on wrestling is really unique for the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we mentioned it last time, but I'm like a mile or two away from H2O, which is kind of like a similar wrestling company. They're more for like the adult fan base and like hardcore and death matches and stuff like that. So it's always good to have like a variety of wrestling, because that's like the most important thing in wrestling, is just to have different options for people who like different things. So it's always good to have a good variety. So
yeah, I
you
always
guys,
like to say, especially to like the old time people, that they like it their way and these people like it this way. I've always been of the mind that there's a place for everybody's style of wrestling in the business. Like every single style of wrestling that you enjoy, it all matters.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the most beautiful things, in my opinion, about professional wrestling is that um, there's just there's no one way to do anything in professional wrestling. There's so many, there's endless styles and and gimmicks and different companies and stuff. There's so much for everybody. If you don't like one thing, you'll be able to find something somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that BFC does have over a lot of places is we've tried to put together a mixture of every style. If you don't like this match, wait till the next one.
Yeah, I mean, we got our technical guys, we got our hardcore guys, our deathmatch guys, our hard hitting guys, high flyers. I mean, I think we've got a really good mixture.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
that's
man. That's what it's all about.
of course. So, what you and Josh are talking about starting your own company, BFC. What's the first step? Right? You have this idea. You say we're going to commit to doing this. What is the very first step to putting this plan into motion?
I think the first step would be kind of visualizing your talent that you want to book, because you can't really run a successful show with not good talent. So like that was my first step. I don't know if Josh's was different, but the first thing I immediately started thinking about was building my dream roster in my head. What guys did I want there? How much was I gonna pay them? Like that was my first step. I don't know if yours was any different, Josh.
Now it's pretty much the same thing because I mean you can go out buy the top of the line ring, you can get whatever building you want to work in or anything, but if you don't have guys that are going to show up and work, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, that's a great point. So how was it hard to like get to source a wrestling ring, or do you have a lot of options in that, like down in Georgia where you're at? Like, what about like getting a ring and like all the different like physical accessories you need to start your own wrestling company? How hard is that stuff to come by in Georgia?
So where we are running at is a backyard, and a fellow named Dennis owns a ring, keeps it in his backyard. I met him with Trent back in the CPW days, and he had told me even back then if we ever wanted to come run a show, train, any of that his ring was available to us. So I always kept that in mind when we were putting stuff together. And when we were trying to get BFC started up and going, we were looking at buildings. We were looking at having to rent rings, which that few and far between on where you can rent a ring from in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's maybe 3 guys in Georgia that rent out rings for basically the whole state.
Wow.
And because wrestling rings cost so much, it also costs a lot to rent a ring. Dennis has been a massive blessing because he gave us the place to go. He's letting us use the ring. He helped with the setup of the entrance and everything for the first show. Like anything we could have needed as far as where to go and the equipment, he took care of it.
That's good to hear. It's good to have to make connections in wrestling and have different friends out there that will have your back. And it's something that I feel like that I've noticed recently is like a lot of companies like will help each other out if you make like the right connections and just like talking to people. And so that's always good to have in wrestling, is just trying to help each other out and that sort of thing. So how do you guys go about acquiring a wrestler for a show? Do you have like a pool of wrestlers that are local to you guys, or if you see someone online that you want to try to get on your show, like how do you go about getting a wrestler booked for one of your shows?
Yeah, like you said, man, there's just such a huge talent pool in Georgia. There's like a lot to pull from, and obviously being in the business, me and Josh, we make a lot of connections on a week to week basis with these guys. So really, getting talent wasn't too big of an issue because we've made so many friends over the years. And as soon as they heard we were running our company, really, I didn't have to go far. They really came to me, uh, wanting to do work for me. So we've been blessed in that aspect, just making so many friends, and everybody's just so willing to work with us.
I mean, I think that can go as a lesson to, I mean, indie, not just people starting their own company, but anybody getting into professional wrestling in general, and even just as a human being, and anything you want to do in your professional space is, you want to, like, you never know who's gonna be able to help you out, or bring you, or you never know what connection you make is gonna come really in handy into the future. So I think that's like one of the big things I'm sure that you could probably attest to, especially in wrestling, is probably just like staying humble and being able to make those connections with one another, because if not for that, then you're not able to build that group. And then you have guys talking like, they no, don't work for Cade, you don't want to go work for Cade. But the opposite, of course, is that, yo, Josh and Cade at BFC, they're the best. Like, I love wrestling for them. I'll wrestle for them any day of the week. So like I said, I think that could just be more than anything else. I'm sure you can attest to it more than I can, but I feel like if there's any like indie guys or small wrestlers like coming up watching this, or anybody just starting out, is yeah, really, it's probably a good lesson based off what you just said. To, you never know who you're gonna meet that is gonna help you down the way, or you never know what connections. So really, just take advantage of everything, and be a sponge and stuff like that. I'm sure you could probably attest to that.
Yeah, most definitely, man. If you're first starting out in the business, that's all you can be. I always tell new guys to ask me for advice is to zip your lips and open your ears. And that's the best advice I can give anybody.
Definitely,
So,
man. Go on.
oh, you go, Dill.
I was just gonna ask, so Josh or Cade, or the two of you, when it comes to now you're running your own promotion, you're the creative mind behind this. What goes into a decision when you're deciding you want to make somebody your champion and represent your company? What what goes into that, and what do you guys look for?
You want to answer this one, Josh?
Yeah. For one, I look at who can connect with the fans the best. End of the day, it's an entertainment industry. If you don't have the charisma, the fans don't like you, or the fans don't react to you.
Mhm.
So that's number one. How do the fans react to you?
I
Good
mean,
or
I can
bad?
I can elaborate on that for a second.
Go ahead.
Our champion that we have at the BFC right now is a very, very controversial wrestler. He's made a lot of enemies, like backstage, and he's made a lot of friends. But there's one thing that nobody can deny about our world champion is that he is one of the most fan engaged people there is.
Right.
He's a heel, and there's like hardly anybody that gets a bigger heel reaction than him. So I could book him based on the enemies he's made backstage, or I can book him on how he makes the crowd feel. And we book him based on his crowd work and his in ring work. And that's why he's our world heavyweight champion.
And who is that?
Jackknife.
Jackknife? That's what I thought.
So, why don't you talk us through what the pressure was like for putting on your first wrestling show?
Man, it was I didn't expect it to be as stressful and as it was. Like, Josh, you could have told me, man, because you've done it before.
Because I had done it before, the first show for BFC was so much better than I thought it would be.
Wow.
Because I had ran CPW and how rough it was trying to run all that. Any guys we had that had to call out, they couldn't make it, was early enough in the day or early enough in the week that we could adjust. Running CPW, I remember the second or third CPW show, we were 10 minutes from bell time. We had 3 guys that weren't there in 3 different matches, and they never showed up.
Wow.
I can't remember names. I just remember scattering, trying to figure out what to do, because 2 of them were the first 2 matches. And that sucked. We with BFC, everything went a lot smoother. So
and
honestly,
business.
there he is.
People. Oh, did I disappear
For a second? Yeah.
For like a sec.
You're all good.
Yeah, you'll have that in this business. People. Sometimes people just have to call out, and you got to be ready to make adjustments. As sad as it is, that's just that's one of the things you got to worry about running a wrestling show, is those call outs. That's one of the biggest things that makes it so stressful. Like, me and Josh have already rewrote the card for our second show, like, what, 4 times?
My notebook's over there. I'm sure there's at least 6 or 7 different cards that I've thrown together, that we've thrown together. And I'm sure it'll get rewritten again.
We're 1 week away from showtime.
Okay,
and,
maybe twice then.
Yeah. there's plenty of time.
That's one of the cool things about wrestling, I feel like, is that it's so planned, but there's also so much that you have to change on the fly as well, and then everything kind of comes together for like a beautiful storm. So how do you manage like all of the stuff that pops up on the fly, with whether if it's wrestlers that can't make it or something happens during a match? Like how do you deal with trying to change things on the fly when you had everything planned so nicely, like down to the final bell? Like how do you deal with that stuff?
That's when it's good to have more than one person running it. Like, one of the 2 of us is going to have a more level head than the other when something happens, and it could be different situations call for, me being more level headed, for Cade being more level headed. And it just comes down to who has the best, who can gather their marbles the best in that situation, and then we can bounce off each other from there. And that makes it a lot easier than if you've got 4 guys that are not coming, let you know an hour before the show, and I lose my head if I'm the only person there writing the show, having to fix the problems. It's not going to be anywhere near as good as if Cade can come up and go, "Hey, just calm down. Here's what we got. Here's what we can do." He's already got in his head days before, if this guy doesn't come, we can do this. Or vice versa, maybe I've got another idea that I can bounce off him. It lands a lot better when you have more people to think, but not too many people, because then you're going to be arguing and never figure anything out.
Yeah, you don't want to oversaturate the booking team. But I think we've got a pretty good deal worked out right now. Everything so far has been very smooth.
Yeah, I think that's probably a lesson that many people can probably take if anybody's watching this and thinking about starting their own promotion, is with the creative. It seems like it's a lot to try and take on by yourself, to make all those decisions. But at the same time, like you said, you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, because then that's when things start to get a little too crazy. So it seems
Man,
like
I've had to turn down close friends because we opened this business up, and we have close friends. Come on, man, let me be on the booking team. I can throw in some good ideas. You just got to be prepared to tell these guys, look, man, we kind of got our little deal. We don't need anybody else in the booking team. I've had to turn down like 3 or 4 people begging me to be on the booking team. That's just one of the things about running your own business.
And to go with that, I mean, it's not that the other guys wouldn't have good ideas. It's just if you've got too many people, you start to clash. It doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Too much going on. And I hate to bring down the mood a little bit, but we have to talk about the last BFC show. And I say that because unfortunately, Cade, you had to mutter the words that no man wants to, and those are the words "I quit." And
It's true. It's true.
And I want you to what was it like being in that type of a match, that brutal of a match, going up against Wraith, but also I mean, kind of tell us how was that the first time that you have ever had to say "I quit" in a match?
That was my first time saying I quit in a match, and all props to Wraith. We had a problem we needed to settle. We got in the ring. We beat the hell out of each other. It's really my fault. I should have had a better strategy. It's really my fault that he reached out to somebody and they came and helped him out a little bit. That's just poor planning, poor strategy on my part. I should have expected that. But 2-on-1, man, I really didn't have much else of a choice. I just had to say it, man, as sad as it is. But props to Wraith for getting his W on that night.
Yeah, so another question about that is like, is this the end of your feud with Wraith for now? Or do you think you need to get some revenge?
Well, we'll see, man. I've been on a losing streak for a long time, and I've been trying to find a way to test myself. So I recently just on the BFC Facebook called out the world champion Jackknife. I just want one more chance to prove my worth as a wrestler. All these L's are piling up. I'm trying to find a way to get back on the W train, and I wanted to fight the best guy on our roster, which is our champion. So I called him out. I'm waiting for a response, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, so you've been making some matches official for your September 7th show, which is this Saturday. You said you just called out the BFC World Champion Jackknife. We've got Jonathan J. Shaw versus Luke Da Silva for the Imperial Championship. We've got Big Bad Brando versus Papa Jive for the OWC Viral Championship. And we've got Drox versus Envy, and the winner will get a shot at the Imperial Championship. What was it like trying to book this show?
It was actually pretty easier than last time. Even though we've had to rewrite the card so many times, honestly, this card has been cake to book other than the last card, because you want your first show to go awesome and you want every match to go amazing. Because it's your first show, it's the first time people see your product. So I was definitely more stressed over the first card than I am this time. But I think this final card that we've got drew up, as long as nothing happens, God forbid, anybody gets injured or another call out happens, I think the card that we've cooked up is going to be awesome. I, for one, am very excited for the Drox and Envy match. That's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like that's going to be great.
Yeah, I actually have a question, like kind of bouncing off that. And I don't know, Josh, you may be able to answer it too. Do you fight in ring for Bloodsport?
I do.
Okay, so the both of you, can answer this. It's how do you like navigate that? Being that you're a talent on the roster, on the card, and I'm sure being that you're um it's you're also running creative, so it's your guys' company, it's your guys' child, if you will say. So at the end of the day, there's no one you can count on more than yourself. So I'm sure that there's, like at the end of the day, you trust, you can trust yourself. If you need to go out there and put on a great show for these people, you're willing to do it. But how do you navigate that line of booking cards and booking creative stuff that you're on? You know what I mean? How do you like kind of go about that? And I think
this is kind of funny that you say this and bring
yeah.
this up, because originally the very OG card, me and Josh weren't on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you bring up we can always rely on ourselves, we've had to throw ourselves. I've been in 3 different matches since we've wrote the card up. Josh has been in a couple different ones. So moving our set, it's awesome that we can be talent on the show, because we can just move ourselves wherever we're needed, and it's really cool.
So, and I think another. Oh no, go. What were you gonna say, Josh?
To bounce off of that, yeah, we can rely on ourselves, but we also have to drop our ego as to not put ourselves at the top every time. That seems to be something that I don't know anymore. Most promoters in Georgia now either aren't active or don't really do this. But when I was coming up, it seemed like guys would start shows just to put themselves at the top of the card every show.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to not do that, which I can't say we haven't, because I main evented for the title the first show. I didn't win, obviously, and then this show, Cade wrestling Jack. I'm assuming he's gonna accept that if he's a champion worth having. So he'll be at the top card for the second show.
But you only do it when it makes sense.
Exactly. I actually rely on my wife. She comes and watches the shows. And I ask her, before I put myself somewhere in a good spot, does the crowd care what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Did I look good doing it? Can I hang in the spot that I'm putting myself in? And if any of those answers are no, then I knock myself back down.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big lesson that anybody, once again, like starting their own promotion, can probably take based off what you guys said is, the kind of check your ego at the door. You know what I mean? And, there might be a time when, you know what I mean? It's the right call to maybe, who knows, Cade Powers ends up being the biggest baby face in the whole company. And you're like, we got to put the title on this guy. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it can't be a thing to where, you just really want to be the champion. So you're going to book yourself to be the champion. So I think you gave a really great explanation on like, how to navigate that. And, I think, one of the big questions that we have moving forward is, what is, sorry, other than, I know you said you guys were very, very excited for Drox versus Envy this weekend. What else can we expect from the September 7th show? I know we went over some of the card. Is there anything that isn't currently listed on the card that you guys are excited that is going to pop off this weekend?
As long as everything goes right, I'm excited for my match. We've got a guy named Jimmy Lee coming in. I've known Jimmy since I started like in-ring wrestling 13 years ago. I've wrestled with him several times. I wrestled him last month, and it was just as much fun getting to work with him last month as it was 13 years ago when my knees were worth having.
I'm excited. I was able to bring my best friend out of retirement to come wrestle for my show. And like I said, we're on a booking committee of 3. 2 out of the 3 people, I said this on another podcast, 2 out of the 3 people keep putting him on the pre-show. It's not like I said, it's an outvoting thing, and he's not very happy about being on the pre-show, and he's been making his feelings known. And I'm always excited to see him out there because he's so unpredictable. David Bryce is his name. He's so unpredictable. Last time he got thrown on the pre-show, he assaulted somebody, and he's promised to do it again. So I'm excited to see what he does on the pre-show.
Yeah, he's on the pre-show for me because he's unpredictable, meaning he likes to come in and fade away.
All right. So
Prove me wrong.
Oh,
there you go.
There you have it. Prove him wrong. So we'll end with this question. Heading to September 7th, this is you're still early on in your wrestling company's career, but how do you make each show better than the previous one?
Really, it's just a lot of studying. You watch over your first show, and you sit down with the bookers and look at the crowd reaction, look at the reaction everybody was getting. Where does this guy need to go on the card? Where does this guy need to go on the card? How can we make the crowd stay loud the entire show? How can we fix these points where the crowd was dead? Really, that's just it, man. Watch back your show with your bookers and your creative team and try to fix the card accordingly to make the fans, because the fans are the most important part of the show. And if there's points of the show where they're not enjoying it, we need to fix it. So,
no, you said everything I could have said.
All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up the interview. All of BFC's stuff will be linked in the description. September 7th is going to be a massive, massive show for them. 707 Newtown Road, Livonia, Georgia. If you are in the area, you better pull up to this show. Tickets are $10. Doors open 5:30. There's a pre-show at 6:20, and then the bell time is at 7 p.m. Cade and Josh, just wanted to say thank you for joining us for this interview and for this episode of the podcast. I'm sure we'll keep having you guys on because we love having you guys on the podcast, along with helping promote your stuff for BFC. So thank you for joining us for this episode.
Oh, most definitely, man. Thank you for having me on.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, man. And yeah, just on top of that, like Mark said, to anybody watching this, even if you're not in the Georgia area and can't make their show this upcoming weekend, support local wrestling, man. That is like how that is what keeps this all going. You know what I mean? Down to there would be no professional wrestling if it wasn't for, guys like Cade and guys like Josh that are, willing to put in the work and put on these shows locally and just out of straight up passion because there's so many guys like us who, we wouldn't have anywhere to go with our weekends and stuff like that if we didn't have these local shows. And, we're really grateful for guys like you. And with that being said, we can't wait to, we were just talking about it. We're absolutely planning on, making a trip down there and come to a show in the future. So that's something that we're definitely looking forward to. So
yeah, like I
you
told you in the text, whenever y'all can make it down, we'd like y'all to host the show.
So, yeah, man, absolutely. Whatever you guys
definitely
need us to do, host, commentary, interview some people backstage, whatever you need, man. We love, we love everything you're doing. We can't wait to work with you guys some more. And yeah, like I said, check out Bloodsport Fighting Coalition on everything. These guys are the real deal, and their passion for the business and for what they do just exudes, and it's very obvious. And there's nothing that I love more in somebody than their passion for what they do. So thanks again. And guys, check out the Burning Hammer podcast. Check out Bloodsport Fighting Coalition. And we'll see you guys next week.